The movie begins with the starship. The starship Avalon is transporting over 5,000 colonists with 256 crew members to the planet Homestead 2, a journey that takes 120 years. This is being done as part of a mass exodus of Earth's population due to ecocide and the collapse of the biosphere. The colonists and the entire crew are in hibernation pods, so they do not increase their age, but as the ship passes through a large asteroid field, the ship's energy shield, which is automatically directed in the direction of the asteroid barrage, is heavily strained against an oncoming stream of space debris, causing a malfunction in which one of the large pieces of debris penetrates the energy shield and collides with an unknown part of the ship. The ship has advanced technology, so its repairing system activates, which awakens one passenger, mechanical engineer Jim Preston, 90 years earlier than his scheduled awakening time. The screen appears in front of him where the virtual crew lady informs him who he is and where he is as he wakes up after 90 years on a spaceship, which surprises him. She tells him the passengers were supposed to awaken during their final approach to the planet, just 4 months before reaching their destination. He feels dizzy at first while moving. She takes him to the cabin where he spent the next few months. He scans his ID, and his luggage is delivered to his cabin. He went to the hall where they were told to reach when they woke up, and their meeting would be conducted there. After a day, Jim realizes that he is the only one awake on the whole ship, and that he woke up too soon. He panics and searches for other passengers but can't find anyone. All of the ship's functions are governed by ID badges. Jim's ID badge is that of a low-level worker, giving him access to very few areas of the ship. He runs to the control room to ask for help but finds it locked. He then asks the system to reveal his information, and after finding out that he woke up 90 years earlier, he asks for the location of the spaceship. He is disappointed and goes to his cabin when he sees a man serving drinks at a bar. When he runs to him, it is revealed that he is a human-shaped robot. Even his daily food is decided by his seniority. He cannot access the bridge as it requires special authorization. Any message to Earth will take 19 years to reach, and the earliest response is expected in 55 years. Jim is not able to go back to hibernation either. Jim finds the engineering manual for the hibernation pod and tries to fix it, but fails to repair it. The next day, he tries to unlock the control room, and for this, he uses different tools to break it. However, he lost motivation and sat down. He notices that some other systems of the spaceship are not working properly. A demotivated Jim visits the bar again, and while drinking, he has a conversation with the robot. He believes that he is stuck in the spaceship and will die this way. Robots state that humans have this issue. They only want the things they do not have. He motivates him to live his life happily with the things he has. After a year of isolation, he is spending time playing video games, dancing, and basketball, spending time in a luxury suite of the ship with no company except Arthur, an android bartender. Jim contemplates suicide by opening the space dock airlock without having his spacesuit on, but cannot bring himself to do it. One day, he notices beautiful Aurora Lane in her pod. Her video profile reveals she is a writer with a humorous personality. After struggling with the morality of manually reviving Aurora for companionship, he decides that he should wake her up. He then awakens her by breaking her chamber system and leaving with the instruments before she can open his eyes. She gets up and begins moving when she comes face to face with Jim, asking for other crew members. He informs her that her pod malfunctioned like his. He gets scared and runs to see other pods, which are working perfectly fine and passengers are sleeping. Scared Aurora gets out of control, but Jim takes care of him. Aurora realizes that Jim has been awake for over a year as he explains all the things he has done to rectify his situation. The next day in the morning, they went to the mess to eat breakfast. She was a gold-class passenger, so her food was different from his. She uses her ID to bring another food plate for him after finding he is tired of eating the same food for a year. She also tries to break the control but fails, realizing they are stuck here. Aurora, devastated that she may grow old and die before the ship reaches Homestead 2, attempts a fruitless effort at re-entering hibernation, just as Jim had tried. Eventually, she accepts her situation and begins writing a book about her experiences, which she was writing before, and wants to complete. She then gets bored and asks Jim about other activities he was doing alone on the ship for 1 year. Jim and Aurora grow closer. Jim does everything with her that he used to do alone, like video games and dance-offs, which the two enjoy a lot while dancing with AI. They play basketball together and watch movies, becoming friends. They started falling in love and went on a date. Both looked stunning, and they spent some quality time together. She talks about her writing life and her family. Jim and Aurora enjoy their time together on the ship, and even take space excursions together, which Aurora enjoys. Aurora is a gold-class passenger and has access to many amenities that Jim never had access to, like better coffee and the swimming pool. She gets closer and more intimate spending more time together. The two have fallen in love with each other very strongly. She is happy with him on this spaceship. She had thoughts about what she imagined her life to be, but she knew where her destiny brought her, and she loved it. He later goes to look into other parts of the ship to see anything that helps them. He sees roses and brings them for her. Later, a spaceship passes by a big star, which is very shiny and looks beautiful, and waves come out of it. The two are watching it through the ship's window. On this day, Jim and Arthur celebrate her birthday. Aurora says that colony planets are big business, and the Homestead Company made $8 quadrillion from its first colony planet. Homestead gets 20% of everything a colonist makes in their lifetime on the new planet. Over the next year, the two fall in love. Just as Jim intends to propose to Aurora, he buys a ring for her, but he inadvertently allows Arthur to reveal the truth to Aurora, that Jim is the one who broke her chamber to take her out. She is distraught. She cannot believe that the boy she is trusting has done this to her. She cries in her room and stops talking or seeing him. He was trying to find a way to console and comfort her. One night, when he was sleeping in her chamber, she went inside and physically beat him with anger and frustration. She was about to kill him but stopped herself. The next day, Jim accepts that he has broken her chamber because he has no other option and is tired of living alone on the ship. He needs company. He apologizes for this act. She does not listen to him. She begins crying and shouting at him. Suddenly, the malfunctions on the ship keep growing gradually. Jim got stuck in the lift, but somehow managed to make it out. Meanwhile, when Aurora goes to take food, the machine throws a lot of food out of it, scaring her. Soon after, however, another pod failure awakens Gus, a chief deck officer. He then informs them about the malfunctions appearing in the spaceship. Suddenly, a robot falls off, and Gus reveals that it's the 15th robot, which got destroyed. He goes to see their chambers and finds the Aurora chamber broken by someone, and he arrives at the conclusion that Jim broke it to overcome his loneliness. Later, Aurora still blames Jim for stealing her life, claiming it is tantamount to murder. Gus does not condone Jim's actions but understands and tells Aurora that a drowning man will grab onto any lifeline. Suddenly, he feels dizzy, and when he arrives in the cabin, he vomits and sees blood in it, which scares him. At first, they are barely noticeable, but one day Aurora gets trapped in the water in the swimming pool due to the loss of gravity, barely escaping death when gravity is restored just in time. Jim was also stuck in the air as a result of gravity and fell to the ground. They decide to check the ship's function, using Gus's personnel code. The group accesses the ship's bridge, which Jim unsuccessfully tried to breach before. They discover multiple cascading failures throughout the ship's systems, but the computer does not reveal the cause. If left unattended, the ship will inevitably fail, causing the passengers and crew to perish. When Gus falls critically ill and loses consciousness, the two take him for a medical examination. They find that the head has 612 diseases. The ship's automated medical suite reveals the autodoc diagnosis of pansystemic necrosis and progressive organ failure and gives the head hours to live. Gus attributes it to his hibernation pod's multiple failures. He tells the two to take care of each other and have a good time together. Before dying, Gus gives Jim and Aurora his ID badge and employee code to access crew-only areas, so he and Aurora can try to repair the ship. Suddenly, the ship starts shaking, making 2 falls to the ground, and then everything begins fleeing in the air. They find Arthur harming itself, as its system has also been damaged. Aurora runs and unplugs his system to stop it from destroying itself. Jim and Aurora find hull breaches from the asteroid collision 2 years earlier. They find a hole in the ship near the fusion reactor. The computer module administering the ship's fusion reactor power plant has been critically damaged due to the asteroid strike, causing cascading malfunctions as the other system's computing power was diverted in an attempt to maintain it. They replace the damaged module, but when the computer attempts to vent the reactor to extinguish a runaway plasma reaction, the exterior vent fails. They have to take the heat out, otherwise, explosions will occur in the ship, destroying it completely. Jim is forced to spacewalk and vent the plasma from outside. Using the manual controls in the vent tube, Jim presses the lever, which opens the door, but it gets close when he leaves the lever. He discovers that he must remain in the tube to keep the vent open while he asks Aurora to initiate venting out the spaceship from inside, but she refuses to do it, as if she takes heat out of the chamber. It will pass through the same place where Jim is staying and kill him. However, he forces her and she begins venting out from inside the ship. It's getting so hot inside that she cannot touch anything. She reveals her enduring feelings for him, and she admits she is terrified of losing him and being left alone. Jim quickly constructs a makeshift shield to withstand the scorching heat, managing to endure the venting process. However, his lifeline suddenly breaks, sending him hurtling into the vast emptiness of space. To make matters worse, his suit, already compromised, starts leaking oxygen, putting his life in grave danger. Aurora came out of the ship after wearing her suit to retrieve Jim from space. She saw him, but he was too far from her. She manages to go near him and grab his hand. She manages to take the unconscious Jim back into the ship and resuscitates him in the autodock. The Avalon, with its reactor repaired, returns to normal operations. After burying Gus in space, Jim learns the autodock can function as a hibernation pod for one person, and Jim insists that Aurora use it for the remainder of the voyage. Realizing she would never see Jim again, she chose to remain awake with him. He presents her with the makeshift engagement ring he made earlier, which she accepts. 88 years later, the ship's passengers and crew awakened on schedule, shortly before arrival at Homestead 2. In the ship's grand concourse, they discover a huge tree with trailing vines, lush vegetation, flying birds, and a small cabin. A recording of Aurora's story describes the wonderful life she and Jim shared on the Avalon. Watch these videos on the right next to keep the binge going. Subscribe for interesting stories across various genres. As always, don't forget to grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon.